Hello. Excuse me if my voice is quiet today. It's for health reasons only. I just wanted to go over something that I think is important today and every day, and more so every hour and every minute, it seems. Many of us have true belief in the facts of some issues that we know of, and the last thing that we want to do is hurt anyone. But unfortunately, as one can see, and as I have seen from 3 or 4 years here on social media platforms, and this one particularly, the impact on mental health and bullying is off the scale. It's an irony that's often observed that social media is far more effective at alienating us from others rather than connecting us to others. And this we've obviously seen, and it's more noticeable in the last year to 18 months of the worldwide pandemic, and the quarantines and the lockdowns and the fear, and they're not listening to science, and the list is endless, and the anxiety, rightly so perhaps, is off the scale, maybe in some countries more than others, depending on the scale of this pandemic on people's personal lives and losses. And what it has done is sort of enhanced our need, if you like, to use social media as a way to escape or to find connections, because many of us have not been able, through lockdowns and quarantines, to go out and socialise face to face as we once would have. Somehow, our online relationships often feel hazily artificial, and then again cringe-inducingly intimate at the same time. And we're only beginning to understand the impact of information technology on social psychology. In his 1964 book called Understanding Media, the pioneering futurologist Marshall McLuhan famously stated that, quotes, "The medium is the message," quote. He argued that the personal and social consequences of any medium, that is, of any extension of ourselves, result from the new scale that is introduced into our affairs by each extension of ourselves or by any new technologies. In other words, the content of a message cannot be divorced from the means in which it is delivered. It's the reason why while the H.G. Wells novel War of the Worlds isn't particularly scary, when actor and producer and director Orson Welles made that famous 1938 radio dramatisation of this story, it had people literally running into the streets, panicking and scared for their lives, not realising it was just a superb way of telling that story. So clearly, using the internet can sometimes create a profound sense of alienation. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar theorised that, as social animals, human beings have adapted to accept a limited number of individuals as members of an ideally sized, quotes, tribe, and anyone beyond that number is at least partly an abstraction. After a certain point, people with whom you were once close personal friends may be reduced to just one more tick on your follower count. The sense of alienation and dehumanization from others can be dangerous extremes. Users often express their desire for psychological and physical separation from the other, and therefore use dehumanizing language that normalizes potentially dangerous levels of hatred during their participation on a social media platform. The internet provides fertile ground for forming, quotes, parasocial relationships, quotes. For example, as said by Pamela Rutledge, director of the Media Psychology Research Centre, she says, "We see the face, we see the action, so this isn't as separate from face-to-face communication as our brains process it, as we might rationally or consciously think. Therefore you start, potentially, to develop a one-sided relationship with that person, where you feel you really know that person. And perhaps the scariest aspect of this is that the distortion and derangement of relationships may not be simply an unhappy accident. Some see it as a deliberate strategy employed by certain media enterprises to maximize profitability at the expense of their users' well-being." What I've just said I've taken from a magazine I read online called Psychology Today. I've mentioned it before, and I took it from an article posted in June 2021 by Fletcher Wortmann, entitled Triggered, a word we hear often, and probably far too often. The reason, briefly, obviously, may be to some, for me quoting this article, and for which I thank them for writing it, because I've looked to try to find a way to say logically and in a measured way how I feel. It's the disconnect now, complete disconnect towards victims who have lost members of their family or have been verbally abused, severely doxxed. People have gone, quotes, real life, quotes, beyond any understanding now. So we just need to try and reflect on that if anyone's interested. I'm not sure how many will listen, but I know there are so many good people that will listen, and for which I thank you. My heart breaks, genuinely breaks, for the pain caused to so many. It's just unbelievable, and yet not unbelievable. And the other issue that I find most disturbing is that people use these sound bites about major incidents in different countries that impacted people, killed people, separated families for decades, and for which they have never really recovered, or at least they're trying to. People do not do their research. Wikipedia is all very well as a starter point, but it is not real research. When you know that people have been through the worst possible pain ever of losing their family through murder, and you can sit on your platform as a, quote, influencer on social media and say that that family is wrong when they try to tell you they know the facts of what happened to the murder of their family, because they do know the facts way, way more than anyone on the social media platforms. When they say, well, they don't believe them anyway and they're just going to carry on, that speaks volumes on that person. And for me, and in my opinion, indicates a complete lack of moral compass. Because at the end of the day, just like the big media corporations who are letting people create on YouTube and the various social media platforms, they are doing it for financial gain. And that is a fact. So the tit for tats is not good. People who advocate or say they are an advocate should not be giving their own personal opinions or shouting at people. That is not what an advocate is. What we need is to listen to each other and to understand and to stop and to realise that actually there are many people here who will never want to be monetised, myself included, who just want to help others. They don't want some crazy, quotes, turf war on social media anymore. Look around you, look at the world, and think. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Much love, Carrie Pink.